Hello and welcome to Applicata Biblia. My name is Mark. Thank you so much for stopping by. We are in a walk through the Bible series or Bible characters, and we are in the New Testament. And today we are in lesson 5960. I had to assign that two numbers just to keep things straight in my own head. And we're only going to be talking about one person. We're going to be talking about Mark today, or Jahn Mark. Who is actually one of the writers of the Gospels, the Gospel of Mark. Okay, so I did speak a little bit about Matthew in the last one. Matthew wrote his Gospel is fairly long. It's fairly detailed. We have long lists of lineages and all of that. Mark, his approach is different. His gospel was to tell more of what Jesus did than what he said. Now, I'm not saying he didn't talk about what Jesus says. He does really well in all of it. But he's very terse in his presentation. Everything is immediate. Immediately they went here, and then they went here. Why? And my question is, why would he do it this way? Well, I don't know. Other than he supposedly he was the first. His was the first gospel that was put out. Maybe not. I don't know. But that is just one way of telling the story. Everything is action. Everything is quickly, and Jesus is doing these things. He's doing miracles. He talks very much the same way. He puts it out summarily, very much like the other Gospels. It's just shorter. That's all. He's only 16 chapters, something like that, instead of 24 or 28 or whatever. And it's just a way of writing. And if you want to read one of the Gospels and just do it very quickly, that's one Gospel to do it in. And you just see what Jesus does. He covers parables, he covers miracles, and so it's very much the same. And it's the same thing as he covers his crucifixion, and he actually ascends in his book. Jesus ascends to heaven in his book. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit. Mark has a close relationship with Peter, Barnabas, and Paul. So what does Paul think of Mark? So we're going to kind of jump forward here from discipleship to apostleship. So it's kind of important to see that, again, these are just mere men. And as we saw in the Old Testament, God is moving through them with his providence. He is getting things done because that's how God works. In Acts 15, after some days, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us return and visit the brethren in every city in which we proclaim the word of the Lord and see how they are." So let's go on another missionary journey. Barnabas wanted to take John, called Mark, along with him. They're supposed to be related. But Paul kept insisting that they should not take him along, who had deserted them in Pamphylia and had not gone with them to the work. So somewhere along the line, now when you read Acts, you'll see that fairly early on in that missionary journey, they go to one or two places, a few places, and Jahn Mark leaves them, and Paul is not happy about it. Okay. Study the following verses about Mark, Barnabas, and Paul, and comment. Aristarchus, my fellow prisoner. So this is Paul in Colossians 4:10. Also Mark, the cousin of Barnabas, about whom you received orders. If he comes to you, receive him. So, I just really wanted to make sure, I'd like to make sure that we see that these are just men. And they can have disagreements. But by the time Paul writes Colossians, he's understanding that Mark is a good guy to have around Acts 12, and Barnabas and Saul returned from Jerusalem, having fulfilled service and taken them one surnamed Mark. Now that's the first missionary journey that I talked about. Mark does go on that one, and that's the one that he leaves them. And Acts 13:13, putting out from Paphos with those around him, Paul came to Perga and Pamphylia, and separating from them, John returned to Jerusalem. Now nobody knows why he did. Some people say maybe there was somebody died in his family, maybe there was, he had to tend to some business. Some people say he was afraid. But I don't think so, but who knows? But for whatever reason, Paul felt like whatever the reason was, you shouldn't have done it. You should have stuck it. If you say you're going to come do this, you need to do it. And that's how Paul is. Paul is a hardcore disciple of God. I'm telling you, I don't know. There's just only one of him ever, and I mean that in a most edifying, uplifting way. I'm not making fun of Paul. He was a great man. Was a great man. Okay. Acts 15. 36 through 40, and after some days Paul said to Barnabas, indeed, having turned back, let us look after our brothers throughout every city in which we announced the word of the Lord, how they are holding out. So he's like, let's go do this second missionary journey. But Barnabas proposed to him to take John with him, but the one having been called Mark. But Paul thought it well not to take that one with them, he having withdrawn from them from Pamphylia and not going with them to the work. So there's that moment. Then there was such sharp feeling so as to separate them from each other. And taking Mark, Barnabas sailed away to Cyprus, but having chosen Silas, Paul went out, being commended to the grace of God by the brothers. So I just point that out to show there was a sharp disagreement. And of course, Barnabas is a guy, his name means encouragement. And he's like, I'm not giving up on my cousin over here, dude. I'll take him. Fine, I'll go. I'll go. I'm trying to see the moment where Paul's going, look, man, he left us. We can't do that again. I'm not doing that again. And Barnabas is like, fine, I'll take him. I'll take him and I'll go. Okay, all right. Now, I don't think they were angry with each other, but they each had their own reasons for doing what they did. And this is what Christianity is. Sometimes we just have to play to our greatest strength, and it doesn't mean that we always have to agree on everything. Like this. Now, there are some dogma things that we do have to agree on, like Jesus Christ is the Son of God. There's no arguing that. But like these sorts of things, they're just incidentals. They're just sundry things that we, how am I going to get this done? Well, I'm going to do it this way. Okay, go ahead. Have at it. Okay. 2 Timothy 4:11. Only Luke is with me. So this is Paul again, talking at the end of one of his letters. Only Luke is with me. Taking Mark, bring him with you, for he is useful to me for ministry. So there is the point where Paul is saying, look, I need Mark. Yeah. So Mark comes along, and he's obviously working, and Paul sees that he's doing good work, and he changes his mind about him. And this is the way things work. They're just human beings. They're people like you and me just trying to do the best that we can. And what lessons can we learn from Paul's reconsideration of Mark's influences? Well, that's what Christians do. And again, it doesn't mean we all have to agree on all the nuts and bolts of things. We look to Scripture to find out what we need to do and maybe how we need to do it. But all these sorts of things, these managerial things, we might, find different people or different ways of doing it. God doesn't care as long as the Christian work gets done. Okay, that's it. These first few are going to be kind of short. Thanks so much for stopping by. I think the next one might be longer, but we'll see you in the next one.